For as long as she can remember, sports have been a part of Chris Vedder's life. In high school, softball and gymnastics. At Cortland College in rural upstate New York, where she studied to be a physical education teacher, Chris was a varsity cheerleader. Today, 4 months out of college, she's earning $24,528 a year, basic pay for a first-year teacher in Baltimore County. It's her first full-time job.
I just wish we could get started. You get so much adrenaline running through you that, you know, just waiting for the kids to come in and wondering what you're going to say and how they're going to react to you.
Unlike Chris Vedder, Leo Weems has spent the past decade in the working world, most recently as manager of this men's clothing store, where he earned $17,500 a year. But Leo wanted to earn more money and get more satisfaction from his work. So at age 31, with a wife, 2 children, and a baby on the way, Leo took a gamble, left the retail business, spent a year training to be an elementary vocal music teacher. Baltimore County hired him for the basic new teacher salary and assigned him to Middleborough Elementary.
I just felt like the corporate world or the retail world was just enough. I had enough of it, and I don't want to sound vain, but I don't want to be forgotten once I leave here. You know, I want someone to remember, Mr. Weems taught me this, or Mr. Weems, I remember Mr. Weems doing this. Mr. Weems, he was a fun teacher. Mr. Weems, he had it all together, you know.
Paul Noonan surprised most of his friends and his family when he decided to teach. He had originally followed in his father's footsteps, studied to become an engineer. In fact, when he was 23, General Electric hired him to train Navy personnel in the ins and outs of nuclear submarines. But Paul wasn't happy. He wanted to teach, even though it meant another year of school, even though it meant taking a pay cut of nearly $20,000, from $45,000 to $26,036 a year, the amount Baltimore County pays new teachers who have a master's degree. Now 27 years old, Paul doesn't question his decision to take a job teaching high school math and computer science.
I'm going to try to do everything that I can to help these students, these people, these children learn things. And that's my job here, and that's my desire. That's why I've gotten into education.
Welcome you in.
The teaching odyssey for Paul, Leo, Christine, and 433 other brand new teachers in Baltimore County began with a 3-hour, sometimes dizzying orientation.
Which way do we head now?
Education groups, teacher unions, and businesses were all on hand to welcome the newcomers.
Here is a survival kit in which the teachers would get, you know, little cracker for the first day, a little tea bag, an aspirin in case they have a headache, a Band-Aid in case they cut their finger on papers, which new teachers have a tendency to do.
A week later, Paul began his new career, one of 100 teachers at Randallstown, a comprehensive high school with nearly 1,300 students. Nervous and excited, Paul arrived more than an hour before school started.
I think the adrenaline's pumping, and never thought I'd be a school teacher, but here I am.
Did you sleep well last night?
No. I tossed and turned a little bit. I went to bed a little bit later than I thought I would, but I still didn't get a good night's sleep. I rolled around just thinking about the day coming up and the excitement of the first day of school and the first day of a new career.
Did you sleep well last night?
No. Nerves, anxiety, just a million things running through your head.
I was real calm. I wasn't nervous. I was expecting to be real nervous and over anxious and zealous, but it was like a quiet calm. It was like, I've been here before, really uncanny.
Leo is teaching in a school that values music, shown by the fact that he has his own classroom, where he fidgeted, waiting for his first students to arrive.
Since this is my first year at this school, I'll probably be asking a lot of the seniors how to get around. And
Conventional wisdom in education says first-time teachers should start tough. Don't smile until Thanksgiving, old-timers tell rookies.
Everybody open up your books to page 7.
Paul Noonan listened to the advice, but maybe because he's been accustomed to training adults, he chose to ignore it.
One of my philosophies is in education is that if you present the students with meaningful activities that they're interested in, you don't have to come in with a stern attitude. You can be yourself. And I'm not going to try to play somebody else that I'm not.
On the other hand, Chris Vedder accepts the conventional wisdom. She's ready to be stern with her rambunctious young adolescents.
You have to get the respect first, and for the most part, especially with this age group, they seem to be in the rebellious stage, or they're starting their rebellion, and if you don't put your foot down right away, then you tend to lose them. If you let them slide by with a few things, then they try and get away with more and more and more. And we have a lot more rules to go over, but we'll go over them separately when we get with our class.
Being white in a nearly all-black school, do you expect that'll be a problem?
I'm pretty nervous, just because I came from a fairly small town in New York, and blacks in our school system are almost non-existent. So it's going to be a real experience for me adjusting to them, but I don't really see a problem. I mean, if you treat each other as human beings and don't look at the color of your skin, I hope that there's no problem with that.
What did seem to be a problem were showers. As Chris took a class of 8th graders through the locker room, one girl had a question.
In the showers, they don't have any curtains.
What if you're embarrassed?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do that when it comes, but everyone's got to go in there and, you know, everyone's got to take a shower.
Back at Middleborough Elementary, Leo Weems was meeting his own challenges.
Goodbye until the next time. Goodbye until the next time.
Come on, Tyrone.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
All the girls. I don't think Tyrone wanted to give me a hard time, but not only Tyrone, but a lot of guys, a lot of young boys will feel like they're more man if they sing low, you know. But I want them to develop their high voice. And Tyrone, he may have done it just to get my attention, to let me know that, yes, I'm the only black male in this particular class. I need your attention.
Okay, that's it for this class period. You guys, I'll see you tomorrow.
After
Make
the
sure you
kids
have that.
left, we asked
Vows
Chris,
number one,
Leo,
make
and
sure you
Paul
see me
to
now,
reflect
okay?
on their first day as teachers.
I learned I shouldn't be as nervous as I was, because I think some of the students picked up on that. Actually, one of the GT11 students, gifted and talented, said, "You seem nervous today."
It went extremely well, a lot better than I thought. From a lot of people that I talked to when I mentioned the name of my school or where I was going to be and what age level I had, everyone said, "Oh, good luck."
I felt like a seasoned teacher, like I've been doing this for years.
I learned that I need to be a little bit more prepared too for my lessons. I don't think I had every single step in my mind thought out, and I don't think that you can be too overly prepared. That's maybe one thing I learned today.
Everything went fine. Of course, you know, children will be children, but I think I handled it gingerly and tastefully.
It hit me, I think, the last class I had today. In between then, I kind of felt like I was back at the student teaching stage where they're testing you out and they're, you know, just giving you your first steps. But then by the end, when you know you can interject the things that you want to say and things that other teachers have forgot, and you don't feel like you're stepping on their toes, then that's when you know it's the real thing. And when people are coming to you for hall passes and you can sign your own name, you know that you're a teacher.
Formal observations seem like a much bigger deal than they actually are. New teachers are always nervous, in part because they don't realize that everyone else wants them to be successful. In many ways, a formal observation is a lot like a figure skating performance, carefully choreographed and painstakingly rehearsed. Skaters spend hours getting ready for their performance, which is, of course, scheduled well in advance. So, too, is the classroom observation. The new teacher gets to pick the day as well as the class period, leaving lots of time to get ready. Leo Weems, 34-year-old father of 3, has to squeeze preparation time into his already busy schedule. There's Sunday Bible study where he leads the lesson, church choir where he's the director, and his night job. He's a telemarketer for Citicorp.
Citibank Director Assistance, Leo speaking. How may I help you?
Paul Noonan, engineer turned high school teacher, has been burning the candle at both ends preparing for his observation.
I did prepare a little bit more than I usually do. It's been a lot of work the first couple months teaching, and a lot more work than I thought it would be. So This week has been pretty tiring, just getting ready for that.
Between all the meetings that first-year teachers are required to attend, Chris Vetter has been fine-tuning her observation lesson. She's going to teach her phys ed students a few dances.
It's a big performance. Every day I feel like when you come in here is like acting for the kids. Some of it's, I mean, it's sincere, but you need to put on a show for them to get them motivated, to get them to do the things that you need to have done.
You're a performer.
And, right. You're an actor in a big play, a daily play, and this one is just like the grand finale.
Every new teacher in Baltimore County goes through this formal observation ritual 4 times during the year. On observation day, the judges arrive, say hello, and take seats in the back of the room, pens and evaluation sheets in hand. When the music starts, it's showtime. The rookie teacher's signal is the bell.
You might want to back up for this, because I brought in the oldest, grossest pair of sneakers I could find. So you don't want to touch these.
Paul has carefully choreographed his performance with an eye toward intriguing his 9th graders.
So wonder if these laces are still on here.
He used his old tennis shoes as props to try to make math more fun. What percentage of the students wore shoes with eyelets? How many eyelets did each student have? Count them up, collect the data, translate it into bar graphs and surveys. Typical fare for General Math 9.
Now how many does a whole pair have?
His goal was keep the class moving. Don't let his supervisors see any bored students. He used dittos, stock prices from USA Today, a map of the United States.
Here's Baltimore right down here.
And of course, audience participation.
Want to come up and show me where Alaska is? Just a general region of Alaska.
Throughout Paul's performance, his judges took notes and quietly wondered among themselves at what they were seeing.
They've done a survey, a bar graph, and a double line graph. That's a lot of material, but he has to be exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
He's very warm when he leans over a kid and addresses
Yeah, he has nice rapport with the students.
Despite all her rehearsal, Chris messed up with the judges watching. She gave one direction too many and ended up with students moving when they weren't supposed to be.
Hold hands, let's try it again. Is everyone with their original partner? Yes.
One of Chris's judges took pity on her, helped her get back on track. That's something a skating judge wouldn't dream of doing.
The girl on the inside would move that direction, and the girl on the outside would move this direction. So you have to tell her whether you want the circle to move clockwise or counterclockwise. See, that makes it clear. So tell them which direction clockwise they want to go.
We're all moving. Your partner and you are moving clockwise.
Leo had practiced his routine on several classes earlier in the day. He was ready for the judging. But even after he had his 2nd graders singing this Sunday school song, he couldn't get them to answer his question.
Now, the song The Angel Band. What type of song do you think that is, or where can you sing that song besides school? Where else can we sing The Angel Band? Oh, everybody's hand is up now, huh? Oh, I knew it. Where else can we sing? Oh, you don't know. Let me see. Next to Nicole, I forget your name. Lee, okay. The church.
For the skater, the feedback is immediate. Within a minute or two, the athlete knows the score. Rookie teachers have to wait longer. First, the administrators meet privately to share their conclusions.
I was impressed by his preparation. His board work was all laid out. He had handouts prepared for the students. He took the things that were motivational, like the map of the world or the tennis shoes, and he set them off to the side so that he could bring them in and never lost focus on the front board where the graphing was to be done.
He gave the children a very, very warm greeting when they came into the room. It just set a very, very nice atmosphere. He told the children what they would be doing during the lesson so they knew what would be expected of them. I thought he had a very nice discussion about angels and about bands in general.
It was also good too when they were doing, when they started doing the horror. She told them if they got out of step, or if they were confused to stand outside the circle and work till they work their way back into the circle, which was good because it didn't take them out and it didn't stop the other ones that were doing it properly.
Finally, the rookie is called into the room to hear his or her performance analyzed and dissected.
In the hot seat.
That wraps it up for the first half of your year, and you've survived beautifully.
I didn't want to interrupt.
There's your hot seat down.
Oh, thank you.
Chris, are you all danced out?
No.
First of all, Chris, you have a well-organized lesson plan. You have included your drill. You have included the objectives. The objectives are clearly written.
I thoroughly enjoyed the lesson with you, Leo, and I think you have a really super nice working relationship with the children. You had a very, very nice discussion about guardian angels, about bands in general, and you gave an excellent demonstration as to how to properly hold the instruments, the resonator bells, and the triangle.
We were all impressed by the connections that you made between mathematics and the real world, and there were a number of instances of that. You initiated the lesson with the double-line graph that showed the price of gold and platinum in a recession. That's something that's on people's mind. You used tennis shoes to motivate the kids and put them into the problem-solving situation by making them look at their own feet and really analyze, well, do my shoes have more eyelets in them than the person who sits next to me?
In general, the tone of all three post-observation analyses was congratulatory. Not exactly rubber stamp approval, but pretty close. Why would an ordinary observer see this as a credible process? He knew you all were coming. I mean, it's sort of like the parents doing the kids' homework. It's all so staged.
Yes, it is. They know we're coming in. They prepare the very best lesson. But if a teacher can't teach their very best lesson and teach it well in front of the observers, then that says something about that teacher.
How is he doing? Give him a letter grade.
As a first-year teacher, compared to other first-year teachers, all right, so not compared to experienced veteran teachers, I would say he's a B level.
There's a scale of 1 to 10 to rate teachers. What is, and 10, I guess, is perfection. Where do you put Leo?
Well, Leo, I guess probably for a first-year teacher, I think he would be somewhere around an 8.
An 8 for Leo, a solid B for Paul, and equally fine marks for Chris. 3 more successful formal observations and they'll have jobs next year. Another 4 successes in their second year of teaching, and Baltimore County awards them tenure, lifetime appointment. Chris, Leo, and Paul, our 3 rookies, began, like most first-year teachers, full of optimism and energy. Now, midway through their first year, comes the reality check. At our request, they've been writing about their experiences and their feelings.
Go in the gym.
Some days, if you catch a bad day, some days it can just be crazy here with fights and, just kids keyed up, and sometimes the whole school just seems to have an atmosphere of being off, being wound up and crazy. Stop. I'm going to send you home. Both of you. Stop.
Run you in jaw, yo.
Stop. And those are the days I say, why did I do this? Why am I not doing something else? I should be doing something different than this. Heel.
The emotional roller coaster of teaching young adolescents took its toll on Chris.
Wait. Keena. Stop, please. It was back to the same old grind again today. School was an absolute nut house. The kids were extra talkative, extra loud, and extra crazy. A lot of the times you just have to leave what happens here behind you and just realize it's a bad day, and it's something that these kids, especially this age, are going through. You just have to drop it and try and pick up the next day.
Let's look, pay attention. No. I'll wait. Let's have a seat.
Show me that you're a great class, okay? Show me. Had I came out of college at the ripe age of 21 or 22 or 23, that I probably wouldn't have been prepared for teaching because I think I needed to do some growing up.
But even waiting until the ripe old age of 33 to become a teacher didn't make Leo unflappable. Children still occasionally got under his skin.
Okay, I'll wait. I will wait. They actually carried on, and until I lost my temper, they pushed all the right buttons. I really lost it and began yelling. After they heard me yell, they quieted down. I told them how upset and disappointed I was in them, and I was so glad when it was time to leave for home. I have never been so angry in my life at the second and third graders.
Well, you could, whatever you type inside the quotes is going to come on the screen.
Many people I know have asked me how the new job is going, wondering how I am liking it. I am. I enjoy imparting knowledge.
Paul found himself working harder than he had as an engineer. He wanted to be completely prepared for every class, and there just didn't seem to be enough hours in the day to get his detailed lesson plans together.
I get here about 7, and then I'm with the students till about 2:15.
Okay, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow in class, all right?
And you really don't have much time during your planning times to do planning. You're usually doing maybe a cafeteria duty or study hall duty or just getting ready for the next class. For a while there, my wife said, you bring homework, you bring work home every single night and every single weekend. So the first couple of weeks, it was like every single day, even on Saturdays and Sundays, I was doing something.
Another day is rolling to a quick close. I wish I had 10 more hours to do everything I would like to do.
It's hard to believe that I've gone through 140 days of school already. That's about 800 classes I've taught. I wish I had about 1 hour for every one I've taught. In many ways, I've learned to maintain, to balance. Every week, teachers have to plan for 20 meetings that they conduct for some 150 different students. Then there are the other duties we have to take care of every day. Cafeteria, attendance, homeroom. All of that for a first-year teacher is nearly impossible.
Paul's workload was only part of the real world of high school. He discovered that some of his colleagues did not share his intensity or his idealism.
It's usually the ones that say things like, the best day in school is when the students don't show up.
Someone said that to you?
Someone did say that to me as I was walking into the building one day, and I was thinking to myself that that's pretty sad that they're in a position of teaching if they have that kind of outlook. You're here for the students, you're here to give knowledge and help the students learn.
Paul, Chris, and Leo began the year expecting, or at least hoping, that all their students would want to learn. That perception soon changed.
Listen up.
The last few weeks, I have very few good things to reflect upon, especially with my 2 ninth grade classes. I did interns for them the other day. Over 50% of them are failing, and mostly, almost all of them, because they have a lack of discipline in terms of homework and because they are just a rowdy bunch. I doubt sometimes very much that they even want to learn.
I don't have a good soldier back there. Being new as a first-year teacher, kids can really try to do a number on you. There are still some students who think that they're going to get by on excuses. I'm still in awe of how children can come up with ingenious ideas and excuses why they didn't complete or attempt to start an assignment.
And this is Miss Vetter.
Chris assumed that she'd be working with parents, not fighting them. She discovered that would not always be the case. Here she recalls her frustration over a student who would not dress properly for phys ed class and a mother who refused to believe Chris.
Lies, lies, lies. Children never cease to amaze me with the lies that they will tell their parents. One of my 6th graders told me that her mother would be up here Wednesday to give me a piece of her mind. I thought, oh no, here we go again. I take personal offense when the finger is pointed at me for the child's irresponsibility, especially if it is repetitive, and in this case it was. Don't sit up there. Girls, get down! I absolutely hate days like this. It really puts your lung capacity to a test of endurance. Get off that cone! I felt as though every word out of my mouth was at a magnified level, and it still wasn't enough to talk over the students. Matthew, you better act right. Gee, wouldn't it be great if a full moon was tossed in with all of this?
Oh, it was like, well, a lot of people believe the moon has something, full moon has effect on children. I believe it. All the teachers, we talk about it every time it happens, you know. Full moon, kids, they're crazy. You can't control them.
I gotta quit. I gotta quit while I'm ahead.
With time and a little ingenuity, each of the rookies discovered better ways to work with and understand their students. Chris joined her school's Adopt a Child program. She picked 6 girls and involved them in after-school activities and field trips. Leo's solution was an incentive to behave. Each month, he gave awards to the best-behaved students in each class, a snowflake in December, a heart in February, a leprechaun in March. He kept tally on the bulletin board. The class with the most awards at the end of each month won a junk food party. Leo paid for it with his own money. Paul took an analytical, even cerebral approach to understanding his students, most of them African American.
I picked that up in the library, and so many of the students there's at least one student in a class or that you see in the building that has a Malcolm X t-shirt, and he has become such a popular figure. I want to learn more about him and who he was and what he meant to the whole issue.
In fact, for both Paul and Chris, race became a factor. To his surprise and disappointment, Paul learned very early in the year how some white teachers felt about black students. He wrote about it in his journal.
I have sensed some racial tension among the faculty towards the students, and I approach it cautiously. I don't say do much one way or the other, but people do confide in you their biases so quickly, and usually under a soft breath it comes. It is all too easy to distinguish.
What I was astonished about when I was writing about here was that maybe just because of my skin color, they thought it was safe to say those things to me.
Another assembly was held this afternoon for Black History Month. Today we had the privilege of listening to the Morgan State Jazz Band. I truly enjoyed being able to experience more of the black culture. I felt fortunate enough to have the opportunity once again to expand my horizons and grow in understanding in a world that 6 months ago seemed like another planet. Will wonders ever cease? Just because of my background and growing up where there were next to no minority students, and their culture definitely by far is different from anything that I'd ever experienced. So it just seemed like another world to be around. To be around some of their actions and some of the things they talk about and do are just totally different from what I was used to.
You support one another, peers-wise, we support you, and we try to put this in a unified effort because we are all together in the problems that we face.
On Tuesday, March 24th, from 3 to 6:30 p.m., we're going to a county-wide protest. I hope that you'll join us there.
Midway through the year, the Baltimore County school system announced it was running out of money. All 3 rookies learned a harsh lesson. They were expendable. They also learned some new terminology, furlough and work to rule, that is, working strictly within school hours.
We had a formal meeting today called by our principal. The county is going to furlough all their employees, teachers, all the way down to cafeteria workers, bus drivers.
Today's furlough was about definite dates that the school would be shut down and that we wouldn't be required to work.
Teachers demonstrating through work to rule are sending out the message of displeasure with the government proposed cuts to the education budget.
We're all here to do what you want us to do. That's why the work to rule that is mentioned in your memo, you wanted that. You told me you wanted it.
Because the state couldn't balance its budget, schools in Baltimore County would close down for 4 days. For teachers, that meant a loss of 4 days' pay.
They take $400 from you. That's right. Or more.
I feel kind of powerless in a way, that no matter what we do or say, it's still going to boil down to they're taking our money and they're giving us more things that we need to do with less money and less, less staff.
What about our 3 rookies, Chris, Leo, and Paul? It's been 9.5 months since they began teaching, full of optimism and hope. As the year went on and reality intruded, they set their sights lower. Now, on the last day of their first year on the job, do they think they were successful? What about phys ed teacher Chris Vetter? Has she become disillusioned? Is Paul Noonan still the idealist he was 10 months ago? Is Leo Weems still glad he left retail sales and became a teacher, or is he disillusioned on the last day of school? Let's begin with the good news. Leo wanted to make an impression.
The best thing about Mr. Weems is that he...
The most memorable thing I remember about Mr. Weems is his kooky personality.
His personality, because sometimes he's really funny in class and stuff.
The most memorable thing about Mr. Weems is that he's a man teacher, right? Because we never had a male teacher, a music teacher.
Spotted Kim.
His height, because I'm used to smaller teachers and all, because like when he walks around, all the students in our class will all go, "There's Mr. Weems," because his head always bobs up and down.
I think I can. The best thing about Mr. Weems is that he puts a lot of effort into what we do.
It was surprising to see and experience audibly the abundance of creativity that dwells within these kids. I think that the children love to show off their talents and creativity. I think that I may have exposed some hidden talents in some of these students.
Although the year had its share of chaos, the rewards Leo got back, small as they may seem, meant a lot. Affectionate children saying thank you, appreciative parents.
It's a thank you card, and it says, "Dear Mr. Weems, the spring program last night was absolutely beautiful. I was astounded with how well the children sang and with such feeling. It was filled with warmth, determination, and the utmost respect for their music teacher. May God bless you for all your hard work."
Middle school is tough. Chris Vetter sometimes wondered whether she'd make it through the day.
Some days I thought I was chewed up and spit out. They're talkative, they're off the wall. And they have very intelligent answers for the things that they do or don't do. As opposed to some of the other classes, because I don't want to. These ones will argue some kind of logical point that sometimes you find hard to turn down with them.
Chris learned how to handle the highs and lows, her own and those of her students, with the help of a veteran, her department chairperson.
I think it has been educational for her. I think it's something that she's glad it's behind her, like most new teachers are. I think most new teachers are. She likes to know her students, which is, I think that's one of the most important things in middle school. She's learned how to teach middle school students in that she's learned their emotions because they have the highs and the lows. And one thing about a middle school child, they'll let you know immediately what they feel.
Could it really have been so hard? We decided to ask her students. Think she wants to come back?
No. I wouldn't. Most of the teachers don't. She might come back. She might if she could pick her class. I wouldn't come back. Nobody likes to listen. Nobody likes to listen.
Any of you ever want to be a teacher?
No. I do.
Because I don't have no patience.
No patience.
I might, for the younger kids, because I guess they're kind of easier to control. They don't talk back as much.
I'm thinking about experimenting with different age levels, like maybe going down to the younger students and seeing what that would be like. This is a tough age.
For Chris, the break for summer couldn't come too soon.
People don't understand. And unless they come in and try and do this, even the substitutes who like to come in said, I would not want to be here all the time. Coming in a couple days a week is fine with me, but you guys can have it and you earn your money.
Paul Noonan, our other rookie, is in many ways the most idealistic of the three. He began with the highest aspirations, and so had the farthest to fall when his year turned sour. No support from parents, little contact with other teachers. His anger and disappointment are reflected in his journal.
When you really step back from the situation and see what the output of public education is today, is it enough to make you sick? The whole system really needs to cave in, and it might happen soon enough before anything gets any better. The students that come into our schools don't want to learn, are not ready to learn, and their parents want us to be completely responsible for them.
Jerry Knotts is the principal at Paul's high school.
It has been a very demanding year, a very difficult year. And all of us came in with a lot of idealistic views and missionary zeal and those kinds of things. And then you end up realizing that you are working for an organization. You're working in a system that has its own needs, and you've got to balance your philosophy with the needs of the children and the needs of the system. So there's a balancing act, and some first-year teachers do have trouble making adjustments.
It's pretty sick and demented at times and goes against all that we teach or are told to teach. Independent thinking, doing the right thing versus submitting to doing the wrong thing because we are afraid of getting into trouble for not doing what we should be doing. It is all very confusing at times.
Paul thinks the system needs change. Replace formal teacher observations with unannounced ones. Create time to let teachers coach each other. Make school more relevant for students.
I don't think kids need to be in school for 6.5, 7 hours a day. I think they need to be linked to the community a little bit more in terms of apprenticeships and things like that.
Paul's been an excellent teacher for us. He's young, he's energetic. We think he's got a bright future in the county. Wouldn't be surprised a few years from now that he's not being considered for a leadership role, possibly as a chairman somewhere down the line.
Next year, will you be here?
Yeah, I think I made, for me, I know I made the right choice. It's where I want to be. It's been tough at times. I mean, there's been a lot of days where I said, no, I don't want this, you know, and if you look for solutions of the things that need to be changed, I think that you'll keep on going.
Although they teach in the same system, our three rookies had not met until we brought them together on the last day of school. Okay, you made it through your rookie year. What's it feel like?
Oh, Lord, I'm still alive.
The last 10 months, there was a lot of good times and some bad times, but it's over with. I can breathe because the first year is over with. And now I feel like I'm a veteran.
I enjoy the fact that we have the time this summer especially. I mean, there's a lot of things that I know I'm going to change for next year, things that I want to improve on, different things that I can now plan ahead for that I didn't know what to expect from before. So I'm looking forward to that, and that next year's going to go a lot smoother than it even went this year.
Let's talk about salaries. Do you feel you earned your money?
Did we earn?
Oh, I earned my money.
To the exact penny? Now, there's a lot to be said about salary, teacher salary. I mean, I think our priorities are off. I mean, we put more emphasis on the salary of a basketball player or a baseball player, but someone had to teach them.
I worked just as hard in this job as I did my engineering job, but it's about half the pay.
Teaching, you know, it's a reward when a parent will send you a note saying, thank you for being a positive force in my child's life. You know, that's the extra pay, you know, not monetary, but, you know, it makes me feel a lot better, you know, letting me know that I'm doing something and I'm helping someone or I'm shaping or molding someone's life. So, yeah, I got paid to the penny and plus more, yeah.
Well, how do you feel about that in response to what he's saying about those like non-monetary types of because I don't feel like I got too much of those non-monetary types of benefits.
I'll send you a couple.
I think I'm caught in the middle between you and you. There were days I don't think that I got definitely what I deserved, you know, and I didn't even get the rewards. But then there were certain moments that you know, you knew you really touched a kid and you'd get those warm fuzzies and the
Yeah.
hugs. And it came out more towards the end of the year. Even after you would discipline them, I mean, people apologizing. I admired some of my kids, and I think I earned their respect, and that paid me back more than I thought.
What's the one thing you would like the public to know about teaching that they don't know?
Oftentimes, teachers have to be a child's friend, in some cases a parent, a teacher, a counselor. The teacher takes, today's teachers, and when I was coming, take on a big role, you know, they take on various roles. You have to really be just about everything that a child needs. Oftentimes they may not get it at home, so the teacher really have to put on a lot of hats.
I think I echo what he says. You have to be a whole different person for every different child. Yes. You can't be the same thing to every kid, and you have to, it's something that a lot of people don't realize, that you just have to get up there and stand and you do your job, but they don't realize how many times you have to change faces or change hats for a different group of kids. And when you do that, that's where, you know, when people argue about our teacher's salary, we're getting paid for more than just one job because we're a babysitter, or we're a friend, or we're a counselor, or we're whatever they might not be getting someplace else. So
kids go through a lot of different emotions all day long, a lot of different changes. There's a culture there, and I'm not sure if the adult culture is really in tune with what is going on in the youth culture, but the one group of people that are the bridges there are teachers, and I think that we have to make that known.
When I was coming up through school, I had, I guess you'd say, strict teachers. And I used to say, I'd be glad when I get out her class, what have you. And I look back and I say, wow, I appreciate that. I mean, I could be out here selling clothes for the next 30 years, and the way fashion's changed, I would make a marketing. I want to be remembered for something, you know. I might be shaping the next rock star, you never know.
During the summer, Leo Weems passed the National Teacher Exam on his third try and returned to Middleborough Elementary School in the fall. Chris Vetter worked as a lifeguard in the summer and is now back teaching phys ed at Woodlawn Middle School. But Paul Noonan thought seriously about quitting. He spent the summer fixing up his new home and taking physics classes at a local university. Paul returned to Randallstown High, but he and 4 other teachers have applied for a grant. They want to start a school of their own. Before we leave you, a few final thoughts about teaching as a career. Recall Leo Weems saying that he wants to make a mark, that he wants to be remembered? Well, what are the odds that Leo Weems, or any other teacher for that matter, will actually be famous someday? Let's put it in context. In our society, we have a special way of acknowledging people. You recognize these. They're baseball cards. Every major leaguer has a baseball card of his own. But ball players aren't their only ones with their pictures on cards. These days, kids have a lot of cards to choose from. Alex's MVP store in my neighborhood in New York City sells all kinds of cards. Not just sports, but cards celebrating comic books, movies, motorcycles, and of course, Elvis. We bought these serial killer cards on the street. Most stores refuse to sell them. Bravo for them. If you can buy cards that celebrate serial killers, there must be cards honoring great teachers. I mean, that stands to reason, doesn't it? So John Tolenko of our staff went hunting for teacher cards.
Hi, how are you doing today?
All right.
I am looking for a teacher card. Have you ever heard of a teacher card?
No, I haven't.
What kind of cards do you sell?
Oh, we have all kinds of cards. I have baseball, basketball, hockey, football, boxing. I have Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Rocketeer, motorcycle cards, Dick Tracy. You name it, we got it.
No teacher cards?
No teacher cards. The only cards I ever got from a teacher was a report card, and I didn't want to save those.
You can't buy teacher cards in my neighborhood or any other neighborhood for that matter, but that got us wondering, why not? We did a little digging, came up with a veritable who's who of teachers. So, in honor of Chris, Leo, and Paul, and all other teachers, past and present, we created our very own teacher trading cards. Let's begin with politicians who taught. President Lyndon Johnson once taught at a Spanish-speaking elementary school near the Mexican border. LBJ didn't speak Spanish, but because he was willing to teach where no one else would go, he was made principal on his very first day. The supreme commander of Allied forces in Europe during World War II, Ike left the Army in 1948 for Columbia University, where he got his first taste of what it's like to be president. Here's another famous teacher from our collection. Between graduation from Yale and his start in politics, Bill Clinton was a law professor at the University of Arkansas. This teacher, the first woman on the National Democratic ticket, paid her way through law school by teaching for 4 years at PS 85 in New York City. This president kept a journal while he was teaching. Here's one entry.
I believe it is the province of females to teach little scholars the rudiments of education. I want something that has the thunder in it.
James Garfield found the thunder all right, an assassin's bullet. Add Woodrow Wilson, Raisa Gorbachev, William Howard Taft, and Barbara Jordan to the list of politicians who've worked in the classroom. But that's enough politicians. Let's move on. This former teacher is best known as the founder of the Red Cross, but the Civil War's angel of the battlefield was a school teacher for 20 years in New York and New Jersey. Long before Susan B. Anthony fought to get women the right to vote, she was a teacher. At 19, she landed her first job in the classroom for $30 a week. I know you're itching to rush out and buy some teacher trading cards, but hold on, there's more. Teachers who became artists and inventors. The inventor of the telephone was once a professor of speech at Boston University. He also started a school for the deaf. You know him as Sting, but to the girls in his English classes at St. Catherine's Convent in Newcastle, England, he was Gordon Matthew Sumner, Mr. Sumner. Louisa May Alcott was a teacher too, but not a very happy one. In 1850, the author of Little Women wrote,
"School is hard work, and I think I should like to run away from it."
Not all of the teachers went on to better things. Remember the rhyme, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks? Well, Lizzie was apparently a Sunday school teacher before she became notorious. No doubt she was a harsh disciplinarian. British art history professor Anthony Blunt was stripped of his knighthood in 1979 when his role as a Soviet spy was uncovered. You can see that these teacher cards will become very valuable someday. Well, maybe not all of them. There's some confusion about this particular card. Elvis was not a teacher while he was rockin' and rollin', but we've heard a rumor that he's now teaching music in Tampa, Florida. Leo Weems will have to wait for a little while to be famous. You can't buy our teacher trading cards just yet. But who knows, maybe someday he'll make the Teachers Hall of Fame. There is one, you know. No, it's not in Cooperstown. That's baseball's Hall of Fame. It's in Kansas, at Emporia State University. The first 5 members, the teaching equivalent of Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth, were inducted last summer. The Teachers Hall of Fame is a good beginning. We don't do enough to say thank you to the adults who help us raise our children. Who knows, if Leo, Chris, and Paul stay in teaching, maybe they'll be Hall of Famers someday. On the other hand, they might move on to other challenges, and that's all right too. We created teacher trading cards to remind you that the world is full of former teachers who went on to other good works. No doubt, teaching for a few years helped them get a fix on life. While they were doing that, they were giving something back to our society. Not a bad idea. For Learning Matters, I'm John Merrow. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.